He paid me $1,000 to be first.
Hey guys, ID Jester here.
And I'm Grant.
I'm gonna make Dan's life a little bit easier now. I'm just gonna send him a video every week, letting him know what we did on our channel. So this is the last week of September 2020, and it's finally here. That's right, took us a long time, but the DVG Kickstarter went through a kangaroo virus, it went through a typhoon, it went through a locust swarm, but it finally arrived and it's here. So we did some live unboxings of Thunderbolt Apache Leader, Fleet Commander Nimitz, and U-Boat Leader as well, all those from DVG Games. And we also did a live chat with Aardwolf Lair, great guy, had a great chance to talk with him about all kinds of great wargaming stuff, real good time there. And then we did a playthrough of Field Commander Napoleon, the 1796 campaign start. And then the big one. Dan's been begging for months to come on my channel. He wanted to be part of that live stream, that live chat that we got going on every week. So I was afraid he was going to send his goons out after me, and two guys were going to show up at my door. So I decided to let him on, and we had our wonderful live stream chat with none other than No Enemies Here. Begging me, I finally gave in to him and gave him his way, but he said because of that, he was going to make me #1 this week. So let's get the show started. Thanks for watching. Keep going. We'll see you next week.
Shut up!
And I'm Grant.
Well, we finally did it. I got over 2,000 subscribers. That's awesome. Awesome! And the 2,000th subscriber is a Canadian feller. As a matter of fact, he's a Quebecer. And his name, I know his first name is Ian, and on BGG he's known as Imperator Nero. Thank you very much, Ian. Yann, merci beaucoup. Yann, je sais pas comment qu'on... Ouais, ben, je sais pas, en tout cas. Merci beaucoup, Yann. Et puis, écoute, peut-être un jour, on va jouer un jeu. Merci beaucoup, hein. Au plaisir.
Hello, this is Riccardo Masini, and this week's Better Day in History and Games is October 3, 52 BC. For some, the day when the Roman Empire was truly born, the day when the leader of Gaul, Vercingetorix, surrendered to Julius Caesar. Before the arrival of Caesar, the Romans had a small presence on what would later become modern France. They occupied only the southern coast and called that province the Gallia Narbonensis, more or less corresponding to modern-day Provence. Now, on 59 BC, Caesar, by then a consul of the Roman Republic, obtained the command of all forces in the area and planned to go on conquering the rest of Gaul. The casus belli was the migration to the west of a Celtic people, the Helvetii, who had to pass through Gallia Narbonensis, threatening to sack it and incite other revolts. Caesar acted quickly and defeated the Helvetii during the Battle of Bibracte in 58 BC. He was then saluted as a friend of all the people of Gaul, but he had other plans in mind. In the next few years, he will constantly play all the Gallic tribes one against the other, rescuing them from outside invaders like the Germanic chieftain Ariovistus and imposing peace treaties and tributes to the Celts. Many rebels followed, each of them regularly suppressed by the Roman legions that actually enlarged the territory of the Republic up to the Atlantic coast and then to the great misty island up north, Britannia. All of this is precisely described by Caesar himself in his De Bello Gallico, The Gallic Wars. A text may be a bit distorted for political purposes, but nonetheless a precious source for military and anthropological history. However, on 52 BC, the king of the Arverni, Vercingetorix, tried for the last time to regain freedom for his country. His campaign of constant guerrilla actions and sudden raids and his political ability to unite the many quarreling tribes really endangered the Roman domination. Vercingetorix won the Battle of Gergovia, but after a disastrous defeat near Dijon, he had to retreat to the fortified city of Alesia. Caesar put the city on siege and repelled every attempt by the Gauls to rescue their trapped leader. At the end, Vercingetorix had to surrender and lay down his weapons. Caesar had finally made Rome the master of an amazingly large piece of Europe, sowing the seeds of a future empire. But soon Caesar himself would become the master of Rome. Such a conquest was a masterstroke of political as well as military genius, and so it's only fitting that we look to a coin game to represent it: Falling Sky. Falling Sky is actually one of the more wargamey coin titles, with the Romans bent on conquest and expansion on the map thanks to their legions and auxiliaries. However, they will have to keep the Gauls constantly divided, hope to maintain favor within the Senate, and rely on the highly unreliable merchant tribe of the Aedui, who are ready to offer their head to the highest bidder. All the while, Vercingetorix will lay down his political network all around Gaul and then go on open revolt, while the bellicose northern Belgian tribe will plan their own campaign of conquest with the help of their ferocious cousins, the Germans. As in every coin, no faction can win alone, and everyone will always maintain a watchful eye on their temporary allies. This is a very refreshing look on a long and complex campaign, too often represented only from the military point of view. Also, it will be interesting to compare this title and this prequel expansion, Ariovistus, to the upcoming Caesar Romulus Gaul title by Mark Simonich, based on the classic Hannibal card-driven game system. So, that's it for this week. See you on the next battlefields. Ciao!
Of Mo's Game Table takes a look at Iron Curtain, Central Europe 1945 to 1989. From Multi-Man Publishing, this is a preview. Mo also does a preview of Ostkrieg, a Compass Games game, World War II in the Eastern Front, from Mitchell Ledford and Gregory M. Smith. Todd of Wardrobe. I call him the Hugh Hefner of war games, because of the robe. You get it? Well, he's losing his mind because he's got a couple of videos out, 4, and we're Wednesday. action at Galamanche. Blitzkrieg Commander 4, also he plays with a tanker, and he does 15 paintings with what he calls World War II Team Yankee. And again, live this time, Blitzkrieg Commander, action at Galamanche. I bet you he didn't know it was called Galamanche. He probably called it Galamanche, but I'm gonna check it out.
And I'm Grant.
Hey folks, it's Aardwolf. Welcome. Dan Poniatowski has asked me to provide you with a brief rundown of what has appeared on Aardwolf's Lair this week, so here we go. We started out the week on Saturday with an unboxing of Dawn's Early Light. This is a brand new release from Compass Games. It is about the War of 1812. On Sunday, after some scheduling difficulties, we revisited Vietnam 1965 to 1975 from Victory Games with a session of the first volley scenario. This is the first of the game's meteor scenarios, and it's going to take us a couple sessions to play through this. On Monday, we resumed our campaign playthrough of Soviet Dawn, a States of Siege game by designer Darren Leveloff. On Tuesday, we unboxed 6 Days of Glory. This is an operational Napoleonic game from designer Kevin Zucker and Clash of Arms. On Thursday, we had a role-playing diversion with a look at the brand new version of the Kingdom of Azadmir from Columbia Games. This is a Harn World product. Azadmir is the dwarven kingdom on the island of Harn and is well worth a look for those interested. And on Friday, we unboxed Versailles 1919, a highly anticipated new release from GMT Games designers Mark Herman and Jeff Engelstein. It is, of course, about the conferences leading into the Treaty of Versailles in 1919 after World War I. I will be out of town next week for job stuff. Nevertheless, there is a variety of things already scheduled on the channel. There may be more than this, but you will definitely see an unboxing of Peloponnesian War from GMT Games and Mark Herman. This is the recent re-release from 2019. A classic and fascinating solitaire system designed by Mark Herman. You will also see a flip-through of the Kingdom of Calandale, also for the Harn World setting from Columbia Games. So stay tuned for that. I'd like to thank Dan Panolio for giving me this opportunity to talk about what's been happening on Aardwolf's Lair this week. Until next time, happy wargaming.
The soft-spoken but formidable foe! Jonathan Townsend is playing an old SPI game from 1974! CILO, the German invasion of Britain, 1940. Paul of the Oaken Night does a complete playthrough, 7 turns of Campaign of Normandy, 44, and it's played to completion. Obviously, I said that before. Wayne Hansen has 2 videos out on his Recon segment. The first being Recon, huge DVD Kickstarter haul. And the second one being Recon, Battle for Germany, Deluxe Edition. The man famously known as Calandale continues his playthrough of Invasions, parts 5B, 6A, and 6B. GMT continues the playthrough of How to Play Congress of Vienna, Part 4, the government phase and the war phase preparation. And the philosopher of war games, AJ Toynbee, Hexes and Soldiers, Jason Cruz, is playing Samurai Battles, Art of Tactic. Jim Zorksky, we got another guy who's on a tear, huh? He's playing the epic Battle of Busaco for Commands and Colors. Also, Blood Bowl 2, the Celtics versus Cyrano. And why is Celtics pronounced Celtics and Cyrano is not pronounced Kyrano. You know, English, the difficult language. Anyways, and then he plays The Creature That Ate Sheboygan, round 2. And then training game for 1809, Snappy Nappy Kriegsspiele. And ends with the Battle of Chancellorsville from SPI's Blue and Gray. And Fred of Omludens plays a guest of Robin Hood. Or maybe it's pronounced jest, but means a story. It's the whole mini coin playthrough plus Consum Game Jam number 1 kickoff. There are 2 videos for this kickoff, and they're playing Alien Abyss. Counterattack continues his playthrough of Invasions with Turn 1 Part 8, the Julian Persian campaign, also box organization, and rules overview. Professor Riccardo Mazzini has 3 video outs on Napoleon 1806 and 1807 versus Napoleon Returns. Dad vs. Son continues, Great War Commander by HEXES. And the scenario is the 3rd one, Chateau Fury. Steve Jackson Games Pocket Box War Bundle, or Wars Bundle I should say, number 1. But I can see like 4 of them. If anybody's at the Car Wars, Steve Jackson. Tim Korchnoi of Bare Bones Wargaming takes a look at Modern War Magazine number, I think, 46, but I could be wrong. He's taking a look at the solo modern war game called Foreign Legion Paratroopers. That was a difficult one for me to say. Bare Bones.
A game for gamers, made by gamers, by Flying Pig Games.
And Mark Walker of Tiny Battle Publishing and Flying Pig Games has a great video out on La Resistance. Please check it out. And Tony's Board Life. Well, you know what? I spoke to Tony. Super nice guy. He's a history teacher. Yeah. Anyways, he's got 3 videos out, so he's busting my chops just like ID and everybody else. And one of his videos is Liberty or Death, The Vassal Trial, a game called The American Insurrection by Harold Buchanan, and Rock of the Marne Turn 2, a game published by MMP, and he's pulling a What's in the Box DVG Part 2 of Jeff has broken the Jan Heinemann record by how many videos you could put out in a day and a half. Actually 5 days. So he does Field Commander Nimitz, a game published by DVG. He does Second Try Part 2 and Field Commander Nimitz with expansion, Second Try Part 1, and Nimitz Third Try Part 1, Third Try Part 2, Third Try Part 3, Third Try Part 4 and 5 and 6. Then Field Commander Nimitz Errata. Then 4th Try Part 6, Part 5, Part 2, Part 4, Part 4, Part 1, 4th, Part 3, Part 10, Field Commander Errata again 2. Holy cow! Jeff, you're killing me! Seek Out and Play gives us an overview of SPI's Blue and Gray, a 2-player operational game that covers the battles of Shiloh, Antietam, Cemetery Hill, and Chickamauga. Rough Swordsman's Wargamer is being reasonable with just 1 video out this week called, in his Open the Box segment, Lock and Load's Publishing, Stalin's Triumph. GIMPY! The GIMPY Gamer continues his review through of Ager Sanguinis and Soldiers and Postmen's Uniforms Review Part 1, and review through Part 2, and then continues with Compass's Games Absolute Victory review through Part 4. Kilroy Was Here is doing something a little bit different. Exploration Introduction to Pocket Lampshade, the free trial version. The Player's Aid are unboxing Brotherhood and Unity from Compass Games, also reviewing Nubia from White Dog Games, and introductory two-player wargame suggestions.
Hi, my name's Matt White, and I have a new game on Kickstarter right at the minute. It's the third game in my World War II print and play Until the Bitter End series. Now, Dan Pancaldi, he emailed me and said, "You better do a video, Matt." Now, I've watched his videos. I've seen him driving the lawnmower around wearing a helmet, so I figured I probably should do what he says. So, here's a video. So I just want to talk about the game a little bit. It's a print and play World War II war game, and it focuses on tank and armoured fighting vehicle battles. The game's suitable for solitaire and for two-player. The game has scenarios specifically to solitaire and different ones for two-player. The rules are an iteration, an evolution of my Until the Bitter End rules. I've modified them somewhat to take into account this game taking place with battles around tanks as opposed to infantry, which the previous two games did. You don't need to have played the previous games, you don't need to own them. The game's completely standalone. What you get, 4 maps. Here's an example of 2 maps. The maps can be reorientated and reconfigured for different scenarios, and you use that to determine how long you want to play a game for. So some of the smaller scenarios will just take place on one map, some of the larger ones 2, 3 or 4, etc. Counters, I've printed these counters out and mounted them. I like to mount them on MDF bases, miniature wargaming bases. So you don't have to cut them out, but you can mount them onto a thick card or serial card, whatever you prefer. For the Allies side, you get a good mixture of Sherman variants, some Stuarts, as well as a bunch of tank destroyers. So there's an M10, an M36 Jackson, all the way through to a for the British and Commonwealth there's an Achilles, and there's a Cromwell, and then the heaviest tank for the Allies is an M26 Pershing. On the Axis side, Stugs, Panzer IVs, Tigers, Panthers, Jagd Tigers, Elephants, all those kind of fighting vehicles and tanks. You get all the counters that you need. It's a chit pull game, so for every counter that's going to be in the scenario, you place a chit in a mug, and then you blindly pull the chits out, and that determines who can take an action. You can take an action with one of your armor counters, and those actions would include things like moving, firing, positioning yourself into a hold down position, being able to repair the tank that's been maybe damaged as a result of combat. Movement's very straightforward. Every counter has the key pieces of information that you need, so its movement points, the amount of armor it has, the strength of its gun, and so forth. Combat again is very straightforward. You roll to hit based on modifiers of the terrain. You then roll to see if you hit, to roll to see if you can penetrate the armor. One of the changes to this game is the facing in the counters, super important. So when you're you position your counter in the hex correctly, facing the sort of apex point of the hex, so that you can determine its front values, its side, and its rear. So basically, the game is a lot about positioning your tanks and fighting vehicles. Ideally, you want to be taking shots at the rear or the side of your enemy's tanks where the armor's a bit thinner. So that's a new addition to the game. But yeah, I've designed it so that you can play comfortably, set up and play the smaller scenarios in maybe half an hour, through to the larger scenarios with more maps and more counters, through to a couple of hours. I would describe the complexity as the sort of the lower end of medium. There are quite a few mechanics and some chrome to some of the fighting vehicles. So some of them have special rules. So for example, some of the German heavier tanks, they can get stuck and become immobilized, for example, to represent, that actual tank in the war. Through to the lighter tanks having more of a recon ability as well. So a lot of the tanks have a little bit of chrome associated with them. Plus you have that sort of facing idea and that key core mechanic. So yeah, I would say the lower end of medium. The chit pull, I've used in all the games in this series now. I find it lends itself very well to the solitaire as well as two-player, because you don't know if you're going to pull, you could pull 3 or 4 chits or more in succession for your side. It makes the game a lot more unpredictable, and you're reacting a lot to the changing forces, the battlefield forces that you're playing against, I would say. And also, because solitaire is so important for this game, I actually designed the game solitaire first, and then adapted that to a 2-player. I found that the chit pull lends itself very well for solitaire. Plus, the solitaire game has an AI system. The AI system is bespoke per scenario, but there are a current underlying set of mechanics for it, and you go through a process of prioritization for the AI counters. So when you pull an AI pull chit out of the mug, you basically use that priority to work out which AI counter will activate and what their action will be, depending on the circumstances that they're in. The AI is deliberately very focused on being aggressive. They will prioritize the shots against targets that they stand the most chance to penetrate for their hits. So targets that present their side or their rear, they will target first. But it's bespoke to the scenario. So in some scenarios, you'll be playing in the solitaire game as the Allies against the AI of the Germans, and the Germans may be playing a defensive game, holding on to positions. On this map over here, for example, there's a hill, and they're not going to leave that hill. So they play a very defensive game. On other scenarios, they're playing a very attacking game. And depending on the scenario, depends on which side you're playing. So sometimes you'll play the Allies, and sometimes you'll play as the Axis. And there's that variety of scenarios in the game. On the Kickstarter, there's a whole bunch of stretch goals for more maps, more counters. For those, For those of you who've supported my games in the past, you'll know that I love making more and more content for the games. So more maps, more scenarios, more counters. I'm constantly creating new art for the game, both the counters and for the maps as well. So there's a whole bunch of stretch goals on there. So yeah, I would, I describe it very much as it's a World War II tank. This is a tank game, solely focused on tanks, tank destroyers, self-propelled guns, all those sort of armoured fighting vehicles. The setting is loosely, I would describe it as sort of middle to late war on the Western Front for this game. For the future, I'm going to use this system for the Eastern Front. I particularly love drawing the Soviet tanks and armour, and I also plan to do a North Africa game using this system as well for the future. But this game very much set on the Western Front. So, like I said, Shermans and fighting against Panzer IVs and Stugs, hedgerows, hills, that kind of those kind of things. So, one of the other maps I'm going to draw a lot more buildings and villages and so forth like that. So hopefully that gives you a good overview. But yeah, suitable for solitaire, 2-player, light to medium, medium to light game. You can play in half an hour. You can play games in 2 hours, and print and play. So you get all the files you need. I've designed it very deliberately so there's not a huge number of things to print out. You can print it at home, or you can send it off to a print shop. No problem. The files are all set up. And they're all super high resolution so that you can get it done at professional printers. This version here was done at a print shop, but the versions I've done before for play testing and so forth, I just print them out on my little printer at home. And I've deliberately developed it in such a way so that you don't need to, it's not going to, cost you a fortune in ink and so forth. So there's a few sheets of counters. Each map has a few sheets. If you just want to play some of the smaller games, you don't need to print the whole thing out, etc. So yeah, hopefully that gives you a good overview. And yeah, again, thanks to Dan for all the support that he's done and given me for all the games that I've worked on in my artwork. So yeah, thank you.
The one and only, the Michigan fan, the man who harasses me from time to time. I need to be settled. I need to be set straight sometimes. Harold Buchanan. Check this out.
Hey gang, it's Harold.
And I'm Grant.
Found myself here with the great Lee Brimington Wood and my friend Volko Runka, and we're going to talk about Lee's background and his history and his fantastic game Burning Blue, which Volko and I have been playing this summer a great deal. So Lee, thanks for joining us. I appreciate you taking the time.
No problem. There are far too many superlatives in that introduction.
Well, I have more, so just wait. But you know, as I looked at your background, Lee, it was interesting to me that you spend a great deal of your time, your professional time, in video games. So could you tell us a little bit about what you do and what you've done, and has it been aviation related?
And Mauro Faina on his Gianni Zero episode 6 and 7. On episode 6, he speaks of Hungarian Rhapsody by MMP, and he speaks of A Distant Plane, a game by Volko Runke, on episode 7. Also on my In Conversation segment of No Enemies Here, I had the pleasure of interviewing a new project which is created by Jan Heinemann, Riccardo Mazzini, and obviously Fred Serval. And we had a great time. We hope to be redoing this again. And it's called Euro War Games. That's right, Euro War Games. Check it out. If you're a supporter of mine, you have the right to take pictures and or videos of games you are selling and putting it on this segment. Yeah, a friend who's selling off, actually I have a couple of friends who are selling some fountain pens. Also, he's selling his house and all the furniture inside. And here are some of the fountain pens. A table, a dining room set that you might be interested in, that every chair has been inlaid by mother of pearl. If you buy anything, he'll let you drive this car for the week. So if you're interested in some fountain pens, even some ballpoint pens, let me know. I'll put you in touch. Another week, another show.
And I'm Grant.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, support this channel if you can. And mushroom season is coming to an end. It's a little bit sad. But you know what? It's going to be a great weekend anyways. You people take care. Sincerely take care. And life is too short. Have fun. Bye.
And I'm Grant.